Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile for NASCAR Busch Series racing on FX. Cars just rolling out onto the track. We're about to get underway. Hello, everyone. I'm Rick Allen alongside of Johnny Benson and Phil Parsons. Now, Phil, previously this year, we've seen some good cars struggle qualifying.
Rick, this is more like a short track. On the higher speed racetracks, a lot of times the cars that were good in practice didn't necessarily qualify that well because the setups are so different. This is more like a short track. A short track, it's easier to qualify with your race setup. That's why you see a lot of the cars that were good in practice qualifying up front.
Johnny, I tell you, this track is going to be a difficult one to tame, even though we are rushing a little bit to get this one started because of the weather in the area.
It is. You know, I mean, these guys sit there and they worked on their cars all day long, and all of a sudden the temperature has just dropped right out. The changes they made to their cars, you know, when they first unloaded, they were real tight. I think as the race gets going, some of these guys are going to get real loose.
Take a look at our race analysis for tonight's race. 250 laps on this 1 mile track for 250 miles. Pit road speed 35 miles an hour, and we've seen problems with drivers trying to maintain that speed coming off pit road.
Rick, we saw 7 or 8 trucks last night penalized on green flag pit stops for leaving pit road too fast. So a really problem area that these guys are going to have to watch out for.
We'll be riding along with a few of the drivers tonight, one of those being the number 12 of Tim Fedewa.
The Hot Tamales Supercuts, number 12 of Tim Fedewa, Fitz Bradshaw Racing.
His teammate in the number 14, David Stremme. Very good record on this track. David Stremme with a best finish here of 3rd and 2nd the last 2 times he's run here.
There's the Reese's Chevrolet of Brandon Miller. Kevin Harvick drives this car a lot and has a great deal of success. Brandon Miller looking for a good finish for his about several times in this car.
The guy who everybody loves his laugh, Kenny Wallace, in the Stacker 2. We'll ride along with him and see how he's able to do as he moves through the field. Kenny Wallace will start in the 7th position, so a pretty good qualifying effort for Kenny. Let's go back trackside to Wendy Venerini.
One of the best guys records here is Jason Keller here at Milwaukee. He has 5 top 5 finishes in the last 5 races at Milwaukee. He told me earlier today, he said he loves this track. It definitely fits his driving style. His car has been able to handle well through the big sweeping turns here at Milwaukee, and he also has the horsepower to pull him down the straightaways. One interesting thing about the 35 car of Jason Keller, they have a drop snout car. One of very few teams in this field that are running a drop snout car tonight. Ray?
Hey, Wendy, take a look over my shoulder and follow me around here, will you? Look at all these folks that are in this grandstand, and I'll guarantee you this Wisconsin group is rooting for one guy right here, the driver of the number 1, and he's on the pole. Johnny Sauter, a hometown favorite here in Milwaukee. Sauter could be the guy to get it done tonight here on the 1 mile flat track.
Johnny Sauter faster than any of the other cars in his 2nd practice, and then sets a track record in his qualifying run. We take a look at the Stacker 2 track fact. The Milwaukee Mile, 3 of the last 6 Milwaukee Busch Series races have been won from the pole. That's got to be good for Johnny Sauter.
Oh, absolutely. You know, he was fast in all the practices on the pole, and this place is very difficult to pass. So start right up front. That's a place to be.
Laurent Truex was one of the cars that was very good in practice, but he had that early draw Wendy mentioned earlier, and he did not get a good qualifying effort in because it was a lot hotter when he qualified than when most of these other cars qualified. He starts back in 21st.
We can mention the weather being an issue right now. When we started the day, the temperature was bordering on 92, 93 degrees, and then as qualifying started, it began to drop considerably, possibly up to 20 degrees it dropped from the time we started qualifying until qualifying concluded, and we had a new track record. And as they come to the start-finish line, Johnny Sauter takes the green flag. We're underway with the SBC 250.
Guys, I'm going to tell you, one of the happiest drivers in this field, even though he may not be leading right now, is Carl Edwards. That means no matter what happens, if it starts pouring right now, he will get the points because he was on the racetrack, took the green flag, started the race.
This is exactly what Carl Edwards wanted to have happen when we were in Nashville 2 weeks ago. They were on the track doing pace laps, getting ready to start when the rain came, and he had to get out of that car and leave and not get any points for the Nashville race.
How about Ron Horner? He got a great run coming off turn number 4, pulled to the inside of Denny Hamlin. Let's see if he can make that pass stick.
That's one thing that Ron Hornaday's always been really great at, is getting a good start, knows where he needs to be. He knows what his race car can do, and he always gains a lot of spots on these restarts.
Denny Hamlin, Paul Menard side by side. Hamlin in the 20, Paul Menard in the 11. That race for 3rd position.
Good side-by-side battle. Paul Menard was one of the good cars in practice along with Denny Hamlin. We had a bit of a ragged start early on there. About a third of the way back in the pack, it looked like they spanned out 3 or 4 wide. Let's see if we can see what happened there. You see Jason Keller, the big M on his hood. They get seized up and stacked up in the 4th. Ryan Hempel had to pull out to the left. Now that's normally a no-no, but to try to avoid the 66 of Aaron Pike, he's allowed to do that. Unfortunately, heads-up driving kept that from being a bad situation.
Yeah, anytime that you get somebody, not really a brake check, but gets checked up there, the further back it goes, the faster that's, gets clogged up. So guys just had to move out of the way, make sure he didn't knock the nose off the car here right at the start.
Martin Truex has already moved up a couple spots there. He moved into the 18th position by the 38 of Tyler Walker. That's Reed Sorensen, the 41. Now we're used to seeing that car in a different color with a discount tire, but it's home 1, 2, 3 on it, so it's a little bit different look for Reed Sorensen, but he will be fast and he will be moving towards the front. That much we know for sure.
Battle for 6th and 7th on the inside. That is the number 2 of Clint Boyer. J.J. Yaley on his outside.
There's our Kenny Wallace in the Stacker 2 Ford.
Right now, the inside groove is going to be the preferred groove. As the tires wear, the outside groove, you can start to work it a little bit more. You get a little bit of grip out there. But right here at the start on new tires for probably the first 20 laps or so, that bottom is definitely going to be the preferred groove.
J.J. Yaley trying to get around the 22 of Kenny Wallace. 5 laps in the books, and they're already starting to fan out in front.
Kenny's on the bottom of the racetrack, and you may say, well, he's on the bottom. Why can't he just drive by J.J. Yaley? Well, because of J.J. Yaley, the 18 car, being outside him, Kenny can't use all the racetrack like he wants to. He wants to be able to swing that car out to the wall, exiting the corner, but he can't use that racetrack up because J.J.'s there, and he's able to stay side by side with him. Look at Carl Edwards coming.
And Kenny's being real careful right now. It's very easy to fly down into that corner, lose a little bit of air out of there. Even though this is a 1-mile racetrack, the same thing still happens. He doesn't want to get loose, slide up, and make any contact. So he's just trying to be as patient as he can as he does complete the pass and brings Carl Edwards with him right on the inside there.
2 practices took place earlier today, starting at 10 o'clock this morning. Then we qualified at 5 o'clock. So a 1-day event for the Busch Series. And you had mentioned earlier, Carl Edwards has got to be very happy that he's actually racing right now.
Well, that's exactly right. He would love for this race to go the distance, but he knows that if it starts raining and they have to finish this race tomorrow, he's going to get the points no matter what, even though he's 2,500 miles away in California. Carl continuing to work on J.J. Yaley, trying to get that 8th spot away.
He keeps trying to duck underneath him, but he just can't quite get the pass made, and he'll probably try a couple, 2, 3 more times here. Looks like he's got a great run coming off 4. It's already got it done. Took a little quicker than I thought it was going to be.
Johnny, his car really turned well in the center of the corner there, and he was able to drive right up beside of J.J. and gain that car length that he was missing.
Martin Truex Jr. started in 21st, moves up to 17th. He had an incident just a moment ago.
See if we can see what happened here. See Martin, he's on the inside of Aaron Fike. That's a 66 car. Watch him drive down in turn number 1 there. See, there's already a little bit of sheet metal damage on the 66 car. Martin made a little bit of contact with him right there, not enough to get him out of shape, and then looked like the 66 may have pushed off that corner, Johnny, and he just shot right up beside him.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like the fender was damaged there a little earlier, where maybe he cut down on him a little bit. Give him a little shot there, and then as he is coming up off the corner, he lost traction. Martin was able to go right on by.
Martin Truex Jr. trying to get by Stanton Barrett just in front of Stanton. Bill Elliott driving that Miller High Life number 64 for Rusty Wallace. Johnny Sauter out in front in the yellow number 1. Fans enjoying NASCAR in Milwaukee, as does Kenny Wallace. Welcome back to NASCAR Busch Series Racing on FX. Johnny Stoddard continuing to lead this field. But Ron Hornaday has been running faster laps as of recently.
They really have been trading the fastest lap the last few. One lap, Johnny Stoddard will have it by a couple hundredths of a second. The next lap, Ron will have it, then back and forth. They're pretty equally matched right now. They're about a second apart, but they're running very similar lap times. Martin Truex continues to make his way towards the front. He's already up to the 14th position, bringing Reed Sorensen with him, who's currently 15th.
Side-by-side battle for 12th. Randy LaJoie just in front of J.J. Yaley. J.J. Yaley piloting that number 18. Wendy, what's happening with it?
J.J. Yaley has been pretty happy with his car so far. You would think that he has never raced a Busch race here, but he has plenty of experience here at Milwaukee, and that's because he's raced in the USAC Silver Crown Series and also won a midget car series race here just last year.
Just behind J.J. Yaley, Martin Truex Jr. trying to move up through this field. He's been the man on the move. He started in 21st position, and already now he's about to battle for 13th.
Yeah, JJ started 8th, and he's dropping back now. He's going to lose 13th to Martin Truex. Martin Truex has a great car, had a great car in practice. Again, he had that early draw for qualifying when the track was a lot hotter than it was later in the qualifying session.
JJ's car looks like he can't quite cut the center. He's sliding up the track a little bit more than I think he'd like to, and then you see it snapping loose a little bit off the corner. They can make some adjustments during caution if we get one or under green flag and try to get that part fixed.
Common theme during practice and actually even qualifying. Guys were talking about being very tight in the middle of the turn, and then not being able to get going because the car wasn't pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, as you enter the corner, I mean, the first part of it's pretty decent, but just as you get to the center and just about when you want to get under the gas pedal, that's when it starts to get that big push. Most of the guys complained about it and really worked hard at trying to get that out of the car, because when you go to that throttle, you need that thing to be able to still rotate and turn so you can get that good momentum down the straightaway. And if you don't have that, it makes it very difficult to come off both ends of this track.
Guys, you have a pretty big swing in speed here from the end of the straightaway. You run about 155 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway, down to about 90 miles an hour in the currents in the center of the turns when you're at the slowest point. So that's why it's awfully hard to get these cars to turn around and go the other direction so quick.
Got a spin coming out of turn number 4. That's a 66 of Aaron Fike. Greg Biffle normally piloting that. Oh, and JJ. Oh, that's not JJ Yale. That was the 40.
Scott Lagasse Jr. came along. I don't know if he made any contact, but he did spin trying to avoid the 66.
It'd be interesting to see what it all transpired there, because that was quite a while after those guys have been sitting there. So it'd be interesting.
All these cars and teams will have spotters up on the roof here, very close to our broadcast position, to try to warn these drivers to when there's trouble on the racetrack. There are the spotters right there. Great shot of the spotters up on the roof here at the Milwaukee Mile.
And so the first caution of the night comes out on lap 22. Still out in front, Johnny Sauter trying to win this one from the pole. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile for NASCAR Busch Series Racing on FX. Our first caution comes out because Aaron Fike got spun around in turn 4, and then Scott Lagasse had to spin to avoid collision. You'll see him come into your screen just in a moment. He comes in sideways spinning, but that brought out our first caution. While we were under caution, our leader, Johnny Sauter, relinquished the top spot. He came down pit road, and Ron Hornaday stayed out to lead a lap.
Here comes Johnny Sauter in. Screw going to the right side, going to put right side's right.
Well, Phil, what they wanted to do was take a pound of air pressure out of the left rear tire, and that'll help loosen him up just a tiny bit. Johnny said, I'm not real tight, but about the 3/4 of the way through the corner, I'm a little bit tight, so I needed to loosen him up just a little bit. They had a real good stop up front. He came in first, went out first.
Well, Johnny, I thought that was a little bit early. Didn't you, for those leaders to come in like that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was kind of surprised when I seen him. I thought he was going to kind of fake that move, and he came in. A couple guys further back come in. But like I say, Johnny made a couple of changes there. Look, a little bit of air pressure out of the left rear, try to free it up. Really pulled on that left front. So we'll get down to Wendy and see what else is up.
Denny Hamlin also came in, but a little bit of strategy. Fuel only for Denny Hamlin and the 20 crew. They also took a half round out of the left rear.
Out in front, the 32 of Ron Hornaday. He knows what it's like to run in front of Milwaukee.
He was running some pretty quick laps there. I mean, almost a little bit faster what Johnny Sauter was there. And I think Ron decided that, you know what, we're going to stay out here. We're going to stay put. It's clean air. Should be good to go right now.
He won this race last year, so he knows how to win at this racetrack. Always good here. Been in the top 10. I think 11 out of 12 times he's been here, including the last 11.
Fox FX and Speed coverage of NASCAR continues tomorrow, beginning with NASCAR this morning on Speed, followed by Nextel Cup racing from Sonoma on Fox. And then NASCAR Victory Lane wraps up the entire weekend on Speed Channel. Our coverage of NASCAR continues all weekend long across the Fox networks.
Got an all Hendrick front row, Rick, tomorrow. Jeff Gordon on the pole, Jimmy Johnson on the outside pole.
Jeff Gordon trying to defend his race title. Won last year's race at Sonoma.
Trying to get back in the top 10 in points. Right now he is not in the top 10 in points, and that's almost unheard of for Jeff Gordon.
Great crowd on hand at the Wisconsin State Fair Park. Milwaukee Mile, Beer Town. Miller Park just a couple miles from here, a great sports town, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As they come back to the start-finish line, it is Ron Hornaday, the king of restarts, out in front.
Another great start. Like I said, Ron always gets a really good jump. You take advantage of that when you get down to 1 and 2. You can kind of make sure that you don't go in real hard, but fail to come off the corner extremely well.
The car behind him, the 2-car driven by Clint Boyer, is the car that Ron Hornaday drove last year and won this race. There's Kyle Krisloff, the 5, making his first ever Busch Series start. Something's wrong. I don't know if he maybe broke a transmission on the restart or something, Johnny.
It's hard to say. I mean, it looked like some sparks just flew out of the pipes there. Now, whether he hit the ground in that half end or if he's got some problems.
Side-by-side racing, and they better decide what they're going to do with Kyle Krisloff. He is almost stopped on the backstretch as the field comes up to him. He's on the inside of the track, and NASCAR decides to leave the green flag out. Ray, what's going on with Kyle?
Transmission is the problem. He says it won't go into gear. He said he's moved it to all the different gears and he's got no power there. So they're wondering if the drive shaft came out. He said it didn't. He didn't feel anything like that, but he thinks it's transmission.
And so he will not make it around the track. There is an opening on the backstretch. He's turning to try to come down that, but he doesn't have enough power to get into the infield as of yet. So hopefully the safety crews will be able to get out to him. The caution flag does fly, though.
Under NASCAR rules, the field will be frozen as the caution flag flies. There will be no passing.
And so our second caution comes out at the Milwaukee Mile. A lot different than the truck race last night. We only had one caution. We'll be back with more racing from Milwaukee. Ron Hornaday taking the green flag. We're back underway at the SBC 250 in Milwaukee.
Don't you know Clint Boyer, that 2-car, would love to get up, get by Ron Hornaday, get him 5 points. He's one of our top point men right now. He's being shown in the 3rd position in points. Just 41 points out of the lead.
Clint Boyer taking over that ride that was vacated by Ron Hornaday when Ron Hornaday moved into the truck series to drive the number 6 for Kevin Harvick. And now today, Ron Hornaday driving the 32 that was vacated by Shane Meal.
What a great day for Clint Boyer in Nashville a couple weeks ago. We got rained out Saturday night. He had to run the race Sunday afternoon and did such a terrific job here. Won his first ever Busch Series race. What a happy moment it was for Clint Boyer and that RCR team.
Clinton right now looks just a little bit better there in the center. You see him wiggled just a touch, trying to get back to that gas pedal as quick as he can, and it looks like his car's rolling really good down through the center of the corner right now.
Battle for first on the right of your screen. Battle for third on the left of your screen. That's Kenny Wallace out in front of Carl Edwards and David Stremme.
David Stremme drove the 32 car here last year. The car on the right that's leading with Ron Hornaday came oh so close to winning this race. Had the lead late in the race. drove in the corner a little bit too hard, got a little bit debris on his tires, went the next corner, slid up again, and Ron Hornaday drove by and won the race. But David Strimmy ended up finishing second. Great battle. There's our pole sitter, Johnny Sauter, the #1 car on the inside. Denny Hamlin, another one of the very, very good cars in practice, along with Paul Menard. That's a great battle for about the 10th position right there.
Johnny Sauter is kind of pretty much recovering from that pit stop. Back up, you know, like they sitting there right now at 11. I didn't think he was going to come up through quite that quick, but he's shown that pit stop may have been an okay thing for him.
After the pit stop, Johnny Sauter came out of the pits in 19th position, and so he's had to move his way back up after having a very strong car to start this race.
Let's take a look and see how he got by Denny Hamlin. See, Johnny's able to keep his car right on the bottom of the racetrack, and then a little nudge. That helps. That puts somebody out of the way. That helps a little bit.
That makes it the easy way, that's for sure. I mean, you hate when guys do that, but, you know, I guess he's on gotta-go mode.
And Johnny, remember what he told us before the race, that he needs to be patient, keep the fenders on that car. Well, that's how you knock the fenders off, knocking people out of the way.
You do. At least you tried to use the center of the nose as opposed to using the right front corner of the car. So I don't think he did any damage. It was pretty light hit, but enough to get the other car just upset just a little bit.
Martin Truex Jr. being able to move around the 20 of Denny Hamlin as well. Paul Menard, one of the other fast cars in practice and qualifying today, just in front of the 59 of Stacy Compton.
Is somewhat of a teammate to the 8 of Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. is Dale Jr.'s team that he co-owns with his stepmother Teresa Earnhardt, and the number 11 of Paul Menard comes straight out of DEI stables.
Chance 2, the name of the team, Martin Truex Jr. driving fourth. Riding on board the Navy car, that's David Strimmy piloting that one, currently fourth. He started this one in fifth. Sauter still on the move as he continues to go by cars, working his way back to the front.
Yeah,
Johnny Sauter led 21 laps to lead this race off.
David Strimmy was able to make the pass on Carl Edwards to move up into that fourth position. Now he's going to chase Kenny Wallace for the third position.
As Johnny Sauter comes up through here, the area, or the spot that's going to help him right here, if they go green, he's got 22, 23 lap better tires. That puts him in a different fuel window as far as with the leaders, as he's being able to get back up there and running with them.
What's happening with Strimmy, Wendy?
David Strimmy started 14th and has moved up to 4th. That's because he stayed out on that first caution on lap 22. David has been loose off too, but a little snug in the center. I spoke to Randy Cox and he said the magic number for them to pit is around lap 50. His feeling were the guys that came in and took tires, their tires were going to be junk in a few laps anyway. So he felt that their tires were going to be about equal to the guys that came in and pitted on lap 22. Ray?
Well, Wendy, you notice that Strimmy takes a real low line going into the corners, but watch Kenny Wallace's car. Kenny Wallace will drift way up into the center, and he gets it real loose coming off. Actually, he's loose in and loose off, and he has been talking about making some major chassis adjustments to try to tighten that thing up. He wants to go down 2 or 3 rounds on the track bar. Now, what he also did was he shut off his brake blowers, and he added a little bit of brake to the front. All of that suggestions from his spotter, Keith Barnwell. Keith just tries to tell him, look, we're running really, really well. You're in 3rd place. You're ahead of the 14, but there goes Strimmy. He's going to take the spot.
You know, Kenny was up here with us last night for the Craftsman Truck Series race, and he paid a lot of attention. He watched a lot of the lines that the drivers were taking with those trucks, and in addition to commentating on the race, he was really making notes, making mental notes on what he could do and how he could move around and change his line to try to make his car better if he runs into a situation where he's loose in or loose off or tight in the center.
He's able to, being loose in, he's going into the corner and just letting it slide through the center and then just sliding up there and getting into high groove late right about there, and it gives you a little bit more bite.
Johnny Sauter as he flies by Carl Edwards. Johnny Sauter, the man on the move, restarted 19th after the pit stop. Now he's all the way up to 5th.
Saw Johnny wave out the window. Carl said, thank you for giving me some room and let me go by so I didn't have to knock my fenders off.
Out in front, Ron Hornaday Jr. continues to lead. Clint Boyer holding on to 2nd. David Strimmy 3rd. Kenny Wallace is 4th, but look out for Johnny Sauter, the man on the move. He's chomping at the bit to get into the top 4. Sauter, the Wisconsin native, making his move, trying to get by David Stremme, and he does. And so he takes over the 3rd spot. And now he sets his sights on Clint Boyer in 2nd.
Boy, Johnny has such a great race car. He is consistently the fastest car by a good bit on the computer here. So he obviously, the changes they made to that car have worked.
The changes and 22 lap better tires is they're not falling off like some of the guys thought they were gonna, but the setup on that thing is just about perfect right now, and he's just coming right back up through.
Ray?
Now, Rick, just a little note. I talked to Johnny right before the race started, and I said, hey, what was the deal with the Rd17 Truck Series race? You were entered over there in a truck and decided not to run it. He said, you know what, Ray? He said, we just got to a point where we realized we have got to make this one car as good as possible, and I felt that running the truck was going to be an advantage, but my crew didn't. They felt like we needed to have a little bit of more time together to talk over the things we need to do with this thing. So he chose not to run the race last night. He said he really hated missing it because he loves running here at Milwaukee. But he said the #1 thing on his mind right now is getting things turned around with this one team. Keep in mind, it's been 57 races since Johnny last won at Richmond in 2003.
Well, Ray mentioned the biggest movers. That would be the Aaron's Do the Mask biggest movers. Johnny Sauter isn't on that list because he started actually on the pole, but has moved from the pole to 19th and now back up to almost 2nd. Biggest mover right now has been Miller. Brandon Miller has been moving very well today.
Johnny Sauter knocks down another spot. He gets by Clint Boyer. He takes over the 2nd position as they lap by the 16 car of David Reagan. I think Ron Hornaday, I'm sure his spotter and his crew chief are telling him, hey, that one car's coming. Don't worry, he is fast.
It looks like he's running just about a half a second a lap faster, and it's just that's pretty tough when your spotter's going, well, he's about a half second quicker. He's coming.
At what point in time do those tires and those adjustments level out as far as the playing field here? Because he can't continue to blister the field like this, can he?
Look at that speed right there, Rick. His last lap was a mile and a half an hour faster than our leader Ron Hornaday's last lap. But I don't know, he's always going to have 20-some laps better tires because he pitted on lap 22, put 4 tires on it. So they may get to a point later on, but I think we'll probably have a caution flag or green flag pit stops before that would ever happen, where they would even out. Wouldn't you think, Johnny?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, during the truck race yesterday, I mean, or last night, you could run for a long time. We put like 70, 75 laps on a set of tires. You would slow down, there's no doubt, but 20 laps, that's hard to give that up no matter what type of racetrack you're on.
See that? There's our battle for the lead right there. You see Ron Hornaday, look at the interval he lost. In about 4 laps, he lost from 1.9 second lead down to an 0.8 of a second lead. Now it's about a 0.2 of a second, and it looks like Johnny Sauter, in a matter of another lap, he's going to be in this lead. Ray, what's going on?
Well, Phil, I just wanted to add to what you and Johnny Benson were talking about. Yeah, you could go in the mid-80s in the Rd17 Truck Series race, but these guys can go 90, 96 laps, something like that, on fuel here tonight. And Hornaday was extremely perplexed when he saw that Sauter went into the pits on lap 21. He said on the radio, what in the world are those guys doing pitting already? And they said, don't worry about it, we'll run our race. And these guys realize now that those are fresher tires coming by. So they've been talking to Ron saying, don't worry about it, he's got much better tires. But Hornaday was very surprised to see the leader go to the pits on lap 21.
Ray, as we talked about being surprised too, but now we're approaching 60 laps. We've run 58 laps so far. If we go another 30 or 35 laps, then Ron Hornaday's going to have to pit, and Johnny Sauter and all the other cars that pitted back on lap 22 will have a little bit of a cushion. Well, if you catch Hornaday and people like that after they make their green flag pit stop and the caution comes back out before Johnny and them, then they're going to find themselves at least 1 lap down, Johnny.
Well, that's just it. I mean, not only is he turning extremely fast laps, he can go 20 more laps on fuel. That may catch guys, or it may not.
And so Johnny Sauter took 32 laps for him to regain the top spot after he pitted. Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile for NASCAR Busch Series Racing on FX. Johnny Sauter setting a blistering pace, running almost a half a second faster than second place Ron Hornaday.
You know, we had a lot of other cars coming to the pits too on that same caution flag that Johnny didn't put tires on, but nobody can match the speed of Johnny Sauter. So it's not just that he has 22 laps fresher tires than Ron Hornaday. He is just flying.
Those little adjustments that he's made has just about made it just about perfect for this, you know, this spot in the time during the race. So it'll be interesting as the race goes on. Everybody else gets an opportunity to work on their stuff, how close it's going to be.
Battle for 6th and 7th. David Stremming in the number 14. Right behind him, J.J. Yaley trying to take away that spot.
Remember, we saw J.J. Yaley backing up at the beginning of the race. So obviously he came in the pits on lap 22, made some adjustments, made his car better.
Yaley making the right adjustments, taking over the 6th position from David Stremming. Now he sets his sights on Paul Menard just in front of him. Paul Menard, one of the fast cars in practice earlier today.
Johnny Sauter is really glad that this race has gone green like it has, because these teams this year is new to the Busch Series. They only have 6 sets of tires for this entire weekend, and they can use them however they want. If they want to use them all up in practice, so be it. So they only have 6 sets of tires when they get here. Most of the teams will use up a couple sets of tires in practice, which means they'll have 4 sets for the race. 1 to start on, 3 in the pits. Obviously, Johnny Sauter has used his 2nd set for this race when he put him on lap 22. So probably only has 2 sets left. So he wants this race to go green as long as we can. As we got a great battle. Ashton Lewis, the 25, Carl Edwards, the 60. Ashton Lewis was able to drive right by Ray. What's going on down there?
Well, Carl not happy with his Charger Ford at all. He had moved forward a little bit, but he's been dropping back steadily here for the last 10 laps. He said he felt at first like he thought the right front tire was going down, but they checked it over from up on the tower, looked it over, said no. And Carl says now he's getting a bad vibration in the drivetrain, and he said it's getting worse and worse. He may have to pit. Brad Parrott, his crew chief, said hold out here because we should get a caution very soon, but it's a vibration for Edwards.
You can see the front of his car. He's trying to pin it down really hard, and the thing is just bouncing away. I mean, now that he's up out of the groove there, it's not bouncing as bad through the bumps, but I think that's probably his biggest part of the problem there, is that just because the front's bouncing makes it hard to turn, and I'm sure it's probably pretty difficult to drive with that.
We see David Green, the 27 car, go by. That takes over the 15th position. We're hearing a report now that Carl may be making a green flag pit stop here shortly. See if we can keep an eye on him. He would love to stay out as long as he could, stay on the lead lap and catch a caution flag.
Battle for 3rd. Clint Boyer just in front of Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. inches ever so closely to him onto the inside, and it's going to be Martin Truex Jr. getting by the 2 of Clint Boyer. Wendy?
Martin Truex has been talking on the radio all night and having complaints, much of the same that he had yesterday in the truck race. He said it turns into the corners, and then the tires start bouncing, and then all of a sudden it snaps loose. So pretty much the same problem with his Busch car tonight as he had with his truck last night driving for Billy Ballou in the 15.
Well, guys, he just took over the 3rd position, so he may not like how it feels, but it's certainly running well.
It is. I mean, yesterday he wasn't moving up quite as quick as what he is tonight, but that is tough. I mean, this track had a little bit of that. It'll start to bounce a little bit, then you start to get chatters on the front wheels, and that's very difficult to drive when it's doing it. You see Carl Edwards is going to make that green flag stop, and he's coming right down there, right to you, Ray.
Well, he sure is, Johnny. He said he just couldn't take it one more lap. Brad Parrott says that's better than wrecking it. Let's get it in here. They'll take a look at these tires once they come off. Everything goes fairly smooth. A little bit of a hang-up on the right rear, and some gas was spilled on the pit road. Kyle McKinney gets slipped just a little bit, so they're going to have a little bit of a slow stop here. But Carl will get back to the track. Now, what they hope for here is a long green. They get a yellow right now, and he's in big trouble.
Carl Edwards coming back out onto the track. Everyone chasing the number 1 of Johnny Sauter. Sauter out in front of Ron Hornaday by almost 5 seconds at the Milwaukee Mile. Welcome back to NASCAR Busch Series Racing on FX. Martin Truex Jr. moving up a spot as we went to break.
Here's how he did it. He was able to get by our 2nd place car at the time, Ron Hornaday. Worked him coming off turn number 2, got up beside him, beats him down into turn number 3. Remember, he's got 22 laps fresher tires than Ron Hornaday. There's Martin Truex now currently being shown in the second position, but he's almost 6 seconds behind our leader, Johnny Sauter.
He's one of the only few cars that's even keeping somewhat of a pace of what the one car is. So as Martin keeps going, he was running just about the same speed.
Carl Edwards came in for service on his number 60 Carter Ford, and when he came out, Johnny Benson sitting next to me, Johnny Sauter was able to get by him and put him 2 laps down, but then Carl Edwards fought back, got back in front of him, so now he's only 1 lap down. But Carl Edwards is in a position where he cannot have a caution come out right now.
Heavy traffic right now. There's Derek Cope, the 28 car, Tim Sauter, the 56 car, kind of running side by side right in front of Carl. Carl says, one of you go.
He definitely needs to. He's not that first car. He's not going to get the lucky dog, so he's got to get by as many of these guys as he can to get into that position.
Ray?
Well, guys, Bill Elliott is in. He has said he is very loose in and tight in the center, kind of the similar situation that Kenny Wallace has. He takes that Miller Lite Dodge back to the racetrack, Miller High Life Light, excuse me, and Kenny Wallace will come this time. He said he can't hold on any longer. The thing is getting away from him. Now, Ron Hornaday just said on the radio that he sees some debris over in turn number 3. I'm sure he does, because he needs a pit stop coming up under yellow here, too. No doubt about it, but Kenny Wallace will come to the pits this time.
You know, guys, with every lap we run, we've completed 81 laps now. With every lap that we run, it looks like Johnny Sauter and Martin Truex's strategy of pitting for tires on lap 22 looks better and better.
Yes, it does. I mean, that's a perfect position. If you come in and it goes green, I mean, if it went yellow, yeah, if the guy's pit, sure, you're back up in front of him again. But a 20-lap cushion, that's a lot of laps here. So 20 laps is big.
There's a pass for third right there. That's Ron Hornaday being passed by the 18 of J.J. Yaley. Here comes Kenny Wallace in the pits, Ray.
Yeah, and they're definitely going to make an air pressure adjustment for him here, Phil. And it looks like they're going to also make a wedge adjustment on the right side, down one side for Kenny Wallace's Stacker 2 Taurus. The guys slide around back over here to this side, just a little bit slow getting to the left front. Not a terrible stop here. They're going to clean the grill off a little bit, and Kenny will go back to the racetrack. Now, Tyler Walker also came down in the number 38 car, and he has got the hood up on that car right now. So something very seriously wrong for the number 38.
I was a little surprised there when I see Kenny Wallace talking about how loose he was and then put a round down in the right rear. But I'm hoping the guy didn't go the wrong way. But, you know, him saying he's loose, going around down, it's going to make it just a little bit more free.
Wendy?
One of those guys that have stayed out and now has to pit under green is David Stremme. Randy Cox's strategy might not have had to work for them. Now they're pitting under green. They're going to take 4 tires, fuel, an air pressure adjustment, and a little bit of wedge out to tighten him up. As the jack cannot get under their car, they're having problems on the left-hand side. The jack was caught under the car. A long pit stop, an unfortunate event for the 14, and they're still not off the jack. There they go.
That's a horrible pit stop, 25.2. He will lose a third of a lap on the racetrack over what some of the fast pit stops would have been. Here's Denny Hamlin still in the pits.
Wendy.
The 20 of Denny Hamlin is back in as well on lap 85. They're 4 tires, packing it, fuel, and an air pressure adjustment on Denny Hamlin's car.
Denny Hamlin made the strategy move of just putting gas in earlier when he came in on lap 22.
He obviously wanted tires because he could have stayed out a little bit longer on fuel. There's the 6 of Tracy Hines. He had a good run going. He's made his green flag pit stop. Will return to the racetrack. See Johnny Sauter go by the 20 of Denny Hamlin as Denny was trying to get up to speed. Got a great battle for third. That's the 11, the yellow car on the outside. That's Paul Menard. He's in the 3rd position. As we look at David Stremme trying to get back up to speed after making his pit stop. There's the 18. I'm sorry, J.J. Yaley. That's the battle for the 3rd position right there. Paul Menard, the 11. J.J. Yaley, the 18.
Remember, those cars that did not come in early on lap 22, we are now coming into their pit window when they have to pit because of fuel, as we're at lap 88 right now. But Paul Menard came in. I'm sorry, Johnny Sauter came in at lap 22, and so he's got about 20 laps more that he can go on fuel.
It is, but the tires, as you get like about 60, 70 laps on them, just get so slippery. And if you're just a little bit loose, it is very difficult to try to get down to the center of the corner and carry any speed.
We caught a glimpse of Kenny Wallace passing Johnny Sauter. Again, fresher tires, trying to get back one of his laps because he was 2 laps down at that very moment. Now he is 1 lap down and almost a full length of the racetrack in addition to that.
Lead over second place most of this race when he's been out front. Johnny Sauter just in front of Martin Truex Jr., Paul Menard, J.J. Yeley, and Reed Sorensen. Now Ron Hornaday comes down pit road. Right.
They want to raise the track bar to loosen up Hornaday just a little bit. He said he's tied in and tied up. Kind of a unique situation for this team. Their crew chief is Todd Losey, but he doesn't sit on the pit box here. He's actually up on the top. He is the spotter for the team, and he makes the calls from up on the roof. He says just round on the track bar, and just that should be good enough for you. They'll get his 4 tires on this Winfuel Chevrolet. A little bit of a hang up on the left rear as they lost 1 lug nut. He says he got it back on, but the NASCAR official is saying no. They're going to take a look at it. And the 2 of Clint Boyer is coming in also. The AC Delco Chevrolet guys will go to work. You see the guys on the right side? Everything looking okay there. They move the tires back to the left side. Going along smoothly. They got the first can of gas in. Second can of gas is almost complete. You guys got a clock on that one?
A great stop, Ray. 14.6. A full 10 seconds faster than that pit stop we saw just a few moments ago.
It's one of the better pit stops that we've seen on all these guys, and it's just a pretty important under green to make that happen. So J.J. Yeley is caught up with Paul Menard.
We're getting a report that Ron Hornaday is going to be called back in, Johnny, for a missing lug nut. What a horrible break that will be. We saw that last night. We saw so many trucks get penalized for speeding on pit road, but Ron Hornaday, we're being told, is going to be brought back in for a missing lug nut.
Yeah, that's pretty tough there.
Justin Labonte just in front of the 11 of Paul Menard and the 18 of J.J. Yeley.
We saw that cost Ron Hornaday almost a sure victory. Was it Dover a few weeks ago when he got penalized brought back in for a missing lug nut? Looked like a sure victory, and unfortunately it's going to happen to him here again. Now, maybe he didn't have a for sure victory tonight, but he certainly had a great run going. He's going to have a lot of time, but a lot of work to overcome.
This battle for third, Paul Menard, J.J. Yeley. Paul Menard putting a little distance in front of Yeley now. Here comes Ron Hornaday again. They're going to check to make sure he's got all the lug nuts on that left rear, as I believe which wheel they were questioning. He'll come down. The official will have to take a look.
It almost doesn't matter. He's in the pits and he's sitting there just about, stopped. I mean, there's no getting that back no matter how you look at it.
So Ron Hornaday suffering the penalty of having to come back in, put another lug nut on the left rear. Johnny Sauter dominating the Milwaukee Mile. Martin Truex Jr. trying to hang on. Jason Keller's had a lot of success at the Milwaukee Mile. John Wood in the pit area now. Routine stop for John Wood, getting 4 fresh tires.
There's Jason Keller, the 35 car. That's Ron Hornaday, the 32 car. You know, smoke's got to be coming out of his ears. Clint Boyer, the 2 car.
Ron Hornaday penalized. Was leading this race. Came in for a pit stop. Had to come back in because the officials said they missed a lug nut. They put it on. He's back out on the racetrack, but he is being shown 3 laps down.
In 29th, and he would be at least 1 lap down because our leader Johnny Sauter has not made a green flag pit stop, so it probably cost him a lap and a half, but the lap and a half puts him over the hump to 3 laps down.
And the tough part is Ron Hornaday is probably trying to attack this track, trying to get up front, and this is one of the places that you have to discipline yourself getting into the corner so you don't mess up the center of it.
Right.
Hey guys, David Green is in his 27 Kleenex Chevrolet, Ford, and David said that he is real loose coming off the corner, so they wanted to make an air pressure adjustment on the left side for him. Now David started 5th today. He was running in 10th when he gave that up on the racetrack. They had a 2-day test here at Milwaukee just a week ago, go. And David said he learned a whole lot about getting through the center. Green will go back to the racetrack, but he gives up 10th position to pit.
25 of Ashton Lewis was also on pit road in the Team Marines Ford. That's a teammate to the 35 McDonald's car of Jason Keller. Ashton, one of the most consistent runners here. He's completed about 99% of all the miles, all the laps this year in the series.
Ashton Lewis currently 7th in the point standings. That consistency paying off in the points race this year.
99.1% of the laps he's completed this year. Clint Boyer is the only car that's completed more, and he was 99.3% of the miles. All but 20 miles has Clint Boyer completed this year.
I would expect we are going to see Johnny Sauter coming in for a pit stop any lap now.
He can. He's controlling the race right now. But the only thing he's got to really watch is the guys that were close behind him making their stops and not, you know, being on fresh tires, being able to catch up with them and maybe gain, you know, time on the track when he stays out.
Ryan Hempel in getting service on his number 4.
Ryan gave that car a good ride a couple of weeks ago at Nashville, finished in the 12th position. Boy, Johnny is really holding the pretty wheel, isn't he?
Martin Truex Jr. running the faster lap last time by. Johnny Sauter a 1/10 of a second off of Martin Truex Jr.'s pace, but he is 6 seconds in front of Martin Truex Jr. NASCAR Busch Series on FX. Can you stay out too long? I think Johnny Sauter is going to find that out very soon. Wendy.
The 18 of J.J. Yaley is on pit road. They're going to take 4 tires and a slight wedge adjustment, which will loosen the truck up. Martin Truex should not be far behind him. Martin Truex is in for 4 tires and fuel. They wanted to take spring rubbers out of that car, but Kevin Mannion says they do not have enough time on these green flag pit stops. So the 8 car is just going to take 4 tires and fuel, but do not remove the spring rubbers was the... Oh, there's a wreck on the track.
Caution flag is out. Tony Raines, the 33 car spun out. Martin Truex was on pit road when it happened.
This is where it's going to get real interesting to see where everybody's going to play out on this, because pretty much everybody's a lap down with the yellow. So
I think Johnny Sauter may be in a lap by himself.
He just might be, and it's perfect opportunity, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to see who's going to stay out.
Let's take a look at why we're under our 3rd caution.
There's Tony Raines, the 33 car, the yellow car on the left. There's our leader, Johnny Sauter. He gets a great run going through the center of the corner.
Johnny Sauter needs a caution.
He's going to make some contact. Well, he got one.
Boy, I'm telling you what, depends who sees that. What's going to happen there? I mean,
I think
like
that
he
was
wanted that caution.
I think Tony Raines was the last car on the lead lap. I think he was running second after Martin Truex and J.J. Yaley came on pit road. So now that puts Johnny Sauter in a lap by himself.
Take a look at what Johnny's crew thinks.
Sometimes getting your own yellow, causing your own yellow is a good thing.
They're obviously happy they got the caution flag, but the fact that Tony Raines got turned around to do it, I don't think Tony Raines' crew would be quite as happy as Johnny Sauter's crew right now.
I'm pretty sure they're not.
Pit road is open. Johnny Sauter making his 2nd stop of the night. He stopped on lap 22. Now he comes back down on lap 114. Ray.
How nice is it to come down pit road all by yourself? That's exactly what Johnny Sauter's done. He said, look, I need just a little bit of forward bite. So they're going to do that with air pressure on the right side tires. Guys go around. There's no reason to be any big crazy hurry here. They can do a nice routine stop, make sure there's absolutely no mistakes. Count your lug nuts. They reminded him on the radio for the tire changers. These guys will get the job done. They took off a tear off the windshield for Sauter, and they also pulled just a little tiny bit of tape off of the front. You see there's just a tiny bit of overflow going there, and they had to stop here.
That is incredible.
Yep.
He's the only car on pit road.
Here, and they had a lug nut that was not on the left front.
You can tell the guy was pretty concerned about it, and he probably told Johnny to stop. Get that thing back here. Let's make sure we're not. Now they're having a little argument because the official definitely was saying that you're missing it. So it'll be interesting.
You heard the official say you're okay. So obviously
it's okay now.
Watch the official. He's looking for all the lug nuts.
He's trying to get it on there. I don't know if he got it on there.
He's looking at it again. He's saying back it up. Get back in your pit box to do your work.
Yeah, I think he's saying back it up if you're going to do work. I think the pit crew guys are arguing, saying that they backed him up to put it on. He's just saying you can't touch it. You got to be back in your box.
It looked as though the lug nut was already on there, but he wasn't sure if it was tight, and so they backed him up. They put a wrench on it. They tightened it up. Johnny Sauter, the only car on the lead lap.
We have a few cars right now being shown on the lead lap because they stayed out when the caution flag came out, but they are at the tail end of the lead lap. That orange car right there, number 1, Johnny Sauter, is our leader, and he essentially has a full racetrack on everybody. But let's look back and see exactly what caused this caution. We looked at it a couple times. You see, watch him gain on the 33 of Tony Raines. But Tony, right before Johnny gets into him, watch real close. The 33 looks like he bobbled a little bit, wiggled a little bit, and when he did, then Johnny made the contact. Now, obviously, Johnny could have avoided it, but it looked like when the 33 bobbled a little bit, that hurt his momentum, and that's why Johnny went ahead and hit him like he did, and it turned him around.
And, you know, as Johnny Sauter's the only one that comes down pit road, he starts to have a problem here on the left front. They weren't sure if it was on there. And you see the official saying, if you're going to work on it, back it up. And the other guy's saying it's on, let's get going. But they made sure it was tight, got going. They're still in great shape.
Johnny, we're getting a report that Johnny Sauter is going to be sent to the tail end of the field right now, the tail end of the longest line for rough driving. Because obviously NASCAR looked at that replay and felt like that he did not have to do that.
It looked like he could have avoided it. He knew he needed to caution, took advantage of it. Now they're going to get it back.
Other problems taking place in the pits. Ray.
Carl Edwards is back in here. Now, guys, what they did, they knew they needed to make a shock change on the front. So the last time they came down pit road, they took the top upper mounts loose on the shock. Carl rode around a lap with no shocks hooked up on the front. He got in here, slammed on the brakes, and the guys got back to work. Now, they're keeping their eye on the pace truck as he's coming towards the front stretch, but the 60 will go back to the racetrack there as they continue to work on the front suspension here. We get 1 to go right now as Carl heads back to the racetrack.
We saw Carl's car bouncing around quite a bit. He wanted that gone. As we see Johnny Sauter going to the back of the longest line for what NASCAR feels should have been avoidable.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, that he probably could have avoided that. But as far as penalizing him for rough driving, I'm not sure, because we got that good view and we saw the 33 of Tony Raines wiggle a little bit right before Johnny made the contact. That turned him around. But now we're going to put so many cars on the tail end of the lead lap. If we get a quick caution, then we're going to end up back with probably 20 cars on the lead lap. Right now, they're almost a full track behind the one of Johnny Sauter. Carl Edwards back on pit road in the 60 car.
Yeah, must not have quite got the job done what they wanted, and this is not a very good time deal right now. They're going to come around and get the green, and they have to finish some of the work on the front of his car, and that could cost them unless they can get out of here just before the leaders get here.
Ray?
Guys, they only had time to hook up the bottom of the shock mounts there. Now they get the tops done, and they'll get the hood pins back in, and Carl will go back out here, but he's going to have a long way to go to get caught up to the field. But he does have both front shocks now hooked up, top and bottom.
Got to be very careful not to speed exiting pit road like we saw so many Craftsman Truck Series drivers get caught last night. He will be about almost a little bit over a half lap behind when they restart this race.
The field going by the start-finish line. One of the last cars to go across the start-finish line was the one of Johnny Sauter.
Now when Johnny Sauter really needs to be patient. You see him drive by the 0 of Curtis Davis. He really needs to be patient. Keep the front fenders on that car. He still has the lead. He still has almost a full track on every car here. So he just needs to be very careful, not cause any problems. We're being shown with Randy LaJoie. Must have stayed out along with the one of Johnny Sauter, so we're being told that Randy LaJoie is the leader.
And he is just in front of Johnny Sauter. Those two making their way through 1 and 2 right now. Randy LaJoy and Johnny Sauter going down the backstretch.
You'd think that the leaders would be somewhat near the front of the pack anyways, and here they are at the back, and it doesn't look like Johnny Sauter's being real patient, but I'm sure as good as his car is, it just looks like he's not very patient.
Randy was one of the cars that pitted with Johnny Sauter on lap 22, so he was the only other car that stayed out on the racetrack as long as Johnny did. And when the caution came out, then obviously he was a lucky recipient just like Johnny Sauter. Putting all these cars either laps down or on the tail end of the lead lap. And right now, it's Johnny Sauter and Randy LaJoy, 1-2.
Well, Randy would have had, if he was the recipient there, would have had to start at the end of the longest line also. So they're both sitting right back there.
Ryan Hemphill just in front of Johnny Sauter. And then number 4, again, NASCAR penalized Johnny Sauter for rough driving, sent him to the back of the longest line after he was the only car that would have been on the lead lap if there wouldn't have been 5 that stayed out that were just in front of him that were 30 seconds behind him, more or less.
Again, he's going to be able to overcome this penalty if he uses his head. He's a great race car driver. He just keeps the fenders on that car, uses his head, stays calm. He's going to be able to overcome that penalty because, again, other than Randy LaJoy, he's got 22 seconds on Martin Truex right now.
Randy LaJoy trying to hold on to that second place position. Ray?
Hey guys, I'm about as confused about this as you guys are. I was in LaJoy's pit whenever the last round of pit stops happened, and everybody came down pit road without him. And I'm looking around, I said, where's he? He's supposed to be second. They said, well, we just got the lucky dog, so we had to go around another lap. They did that, then they came in and pitted with the lap down cars, and then he went back out, and all of a sudden he's second. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but LaJoy was the guy who got the free pass.
Well, one of the things you get with that free pass is you can come in, you can do the service on your car, but you start at the end of the longest line.
So that is what happened. Randy LaJoy restarted just in front of Johnny Sauter because he was taking on the penalty of rough driving, and so Johnny Sauter was just behind him on the restart. Sauter has now passed Randy LaJoy, and so it's Johnny Sauter, Randy LaJoy, Martin Truex Jr., Clint Boyer, and Paul Menard, your top 5 in Milwaukee. Johnny Sauter may have avoided the bullet at the Milwaukee Mile. He was leading at halfway. Only 5 of the 14 races have been won by the driver leading at halfway. We'll see if Johnny Sauter can change that statistic tonight.
He certainly has a great car. He's been the dominant car without a doubt. Again, he's still got a lot of cars in front of him because of the penalty from NASCAR for rough driving. He had to restart this race from the tail end of the longest line, so he was behind every car on the racetrack. Just in position on the racetrack, not in position of the race. He's still leading. Right now, Randy LaJoy is about 3.5 seconds behind him in second.
But then it starts taking a big jump. The next guys, because they were in front of them, there's 19, 20 seconds, so that's huge.
And if you look back at it now, that pit strategy of coming in on lap 22 could be genius.
Oh, it's definitely played into their hands. There's no doubt. Even with this penalty here, he's still way ahead.
Yeah, the only way things could have worked out better is if NASCAR had not have penalized him for rough driving. And then they would have worked out as good as they possibly could have worked out.
Last night we saw Dennis Setzer lap almost the entire 36 truck field in the truck race. And now it looks as though Johnny Sauter's trying to do something similar. Now, last time we saw this scenario, it didn't turn out too well for Johnny Sauter or Tony Raines.
Well, I bet you Johnny Sauter is not going to run in the back of Tony Raines this time, but I think he may be just a little more careful getting by Tony Raines because people have a tendency to remember things like that, don't they, John?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, if the caution would have got out, Tony would have been the recipient of getting that lap back, and then you know, him spinning out and losing that opportunity keeps him a lap down.
And to somewhat defend Johnny Sauter in this situation, if you look at the back of that 33, there's not it's not visible damage to the back of the 33 where there was much contact at all.
Rick, you can lean on somebody with a finger and turn them around when these cars, when they're on the edge like that. So just because there's not a great deal of damage on the 33 car doesn't mean he didn't get turned around by Johnny Sauter.
Well, he didn't go up in there and run into him hard. It looked like he went in there, slowed down a little bit, and then kind of drove through. So all he did is just helped it lift the back wheels off the ground a little bit, and Tony just lost way too much traction. And you see Tony's already loose, so I mean it didn't take much to get him around.
Johnny Sauter right behind the Miller High Life Light 64 of Bill Elliott.
And remember, when we looked at that replay in slow motion, we saw Tony Raines wiggle right before Johnny gave him the contact that turned him around. So I cannot lay all blame on Johnny Sauter for that incident.
Tony Raines trying to go on the outside of Tim Vidoa in the Supercuts, number 12. Johnny Sauter setting a blistering pace around the Milwaukee mile. He holds on to the top spot. Randall LaJoie now over 4 seconds behind him in second. Welcome back to the SBC 250 at the Milwaukee Mile. It's NASCAR Busch Series racing on FX. Martin Truex Jr. sitting in third position. He's 17 seconds behind Johnny Sauter. Here's a battle between the 2 of Clint Boyer and the 20 of Denny Hamlin. This is for 5th position. Now they are 21 seconds behind Johnny Sauter.
As we said earlier, Johnny Sauter is going to really be able to overcome this penalty, especially if we get some more green flag racing, because his car is so fast right now. If he gets enough green flag racing, then he'll probably lap. Kenny Wallace right now is the last car on the lead lap. He's about 26 seconds behind, so he'll start catching those cars. David Stremme would be next, J.J. Yeley, and then this battle for 5th between Clint Boyer and Denny Hamlin, and he'll start putting a lot of cars a lap down again.
Only 3 cautions have come out tonight. We have 145 laps complete of the 250. Last night we had 1 caution. Dennis Setzer dominated the truck race. There were only 4 trucks on the lead lap when the checkered flag flew at the end of the night.
Yeah, and I was at caution.
Oh yeah, sorry about that, Johnny.
A little bit of an engine failure at front as we got a spin and a car up in the wall in turn 3.
Curtis Davis in the 0 gets spun around into the wall in turn 3. This brings out our 4th caution of the night. And now this will benefit drivers like Tony Raines. He'll get the free pass. Kenny Wallace, David Stremme, J.J. Yeley, Denny Hamlin, Clint Boyer, Paul Menard, Martin Truex Jr. and Randall LaJoie will all be able to come up behind the 1 of Johnny Sauter.
Well, that's justice. The 33 of Tony Raines will get the free pass this time, so that's justice. He will be back on the lead lap. He will be one of 10 cars on the lead lap when we restart this race.
Curtis Davis getting the 0 started and back down on the inside of the track, but a lot of damage to that car.
That is a lot of damage. I don't believe that they'll get that fixed. They'll put that right in the truck, I'm sure.
It's been a real clean race. We were just talking about how few caution flags we've had. We saw obviously the spin by Tony Raines after some contact from Johnny Sauter, but otherwise it's been an extremely clean weekend.
It has. I mean, the truck race went pretty much, except for the 1 caution, which wasn't a wreck. It was just a failure. But you know, this track gives you 2-wide racing. You can run the bottom, you can run a little bit of the top, and guys really don't need to bump into each other to get around it. So that always makes for you know, a lot of green flag racing.
Just outside of the window that I think these drivers would be able to make it on this one more pit stop, we've completed 146 of the 250 laps. I don't think anybody could run over 100 miles here.
Now that'd be a little tough. You know, they might be able to get 90, 95 in. You're not going to want to do that on tires anyways, but you can on the fuel.
With so few cars now on the lead lap, would somebody try that with the possibility of another caution coming out and they being able to stay out in front and run them until the end of the race?
It would be questionable. I mean, you've got the 1 car that's so fast that gamble may not work.
Ray.
Well, here comes Johnny Sauter. Here comes to the very first pit stall down here, and the guys said smoothness. Remember what happened last time. No mistakes here will get us off pit road first time. They will continue to do that, move around to the left side. Wendy?
The crazy thing just happened in the 8 pit at the very last second. Kevin Mannion decided to take no tires on the 8 car. They were tight all night long. They were talking about removing the right front spring, but they decided to take no tires. So obviously no spring rubber was removed. Ray?
Wendy, they had a pretty long pit stop for Randy LaJoie here, and also he got blocked in, so he was not able to get out real quickly, but not many other guys got by. So LaJoie won't be in too bad a shape. But Sauter got off pit road in 18 seconds and a little more. LaJoie had a bit of a hang-up as they worked on one of the left rear tires. Andy was blocked in.
Just watch the 8th car coming in. This is what Wendy was talking about. This is Martin Truex Jr. Going to make a chassis adjustment. Going to raise the track bar around. Going to top it off with fuel and send him back on his way. No tires.
Well, we don't know exactly how many laps he's been out there. Hasn't been a whole lot of long time. So he's wanting to save a good set of tires for the end of this race.
He's got about 30 laps on this set of tires. That's about how long ago was all these cars were on pit road there for the spin for Tony Raines.
Pit strategy coming into play now. Johnny Sauter out in front of Martin Truex Jr. Doesn't take tires, goes out with only fuel and track bar adjustment. Laps. Just under 100 laps remain in this race from the Milwaukee Mile. Can Johnny Sauter hold on to win in his home state? Hearing problems from Paul Menard, also a Wisconsin native. He's backing up. Justin Labonte on the inside of him now. That's Reed Sorensen just behind him in the 41.
He's had a great car all night. He's been well into the top 5 for a lot of the evening. Looks like he may be getting back up to speed now. He may have had a little debris on his tires, Johnny.
He could have, or they may have bumped, or whatever the situation was. Just got him clogged up there a little bit. He fell back. He'll get everything cleaned out and get going again. Won't be any problem for him.
Clean track in front of Johnny Sauter. Ray, how's he doing?
Well, fine, Rick. You guys talking about what they have left for tires. Sauter does have used tires down here. They're scuffs, but only 2-lap scuffs that they use for the qualifying mock run. So that's what they've got left over for tires. As far as LaJoie and Clint Boyer running in 3rd and 4th, they both have brand new stickers available for the next pit stop.
Well, then we know Johnny Sauter, he probably used only one set of tires for the most part in all the practice sessions, the 2-hour practice sessions, as we see Clint Boyer take over the 3rd position from Randy LaJoie. So right now I would say it's even between Martin Truex. Even if he has stickers, I don't think the difference between stickers and 2-lap scuffs is enough to worry about. Do you, Johnny?
No, it's not. I mean, I wouldn't really worry about it. If it was a 3-lap shootout, yeah, you want the stickers. But if there's any amount of laps that they need to run, it's not going to really make that big a difference.
10 cars still on the lead lap. Battle for 5th, J.J. Yaley, Denny Hamlin, as well as David Stremme. We're riding on board with David Stremme in that Navy number 14. Just behind the 20 of Denny Hamlin.
There's Carl Edwards right there. Remember, he made some shock adjustments or changed his shocks on the caution flag. He's being shown a lap down because he would have been one of the cars that was in front of Johnny Sauter when they lined up, but because of all the pit work he did, he actually came out over a half lap behind. You see him trying to work his way by the 22 of Kenny Wallace. So Carl Edwards right now needs a caution flag, and he would be in line to get the free pass. Then he would be back in contention for this race.
And you still see it's hopping around a little bit, but not near as bad as what it was at the beginning of the race. And so it'd be interesting to see if he thought that the change is something that was a positive move for him.
We're talking wholesale changes, though. Normally we see somebody put a round in here or tire pressure here or there. They took the shocks off and put new shocks on this thing.
That is something that is not very easy to do, especially when we've seen rotors glowing red. And you know, to get the bottom of that shock off there, they're right down, you know, right down near the rotor. I'm sure the guys that have changed it right now have probably got their hands in a couple buckets of ice trying to cool them off.
Great battle. J.J. Yaley has a terrific run going. He's the 18 car right there, right of your screen. Denny Hamlin, that's his teammate, the 20 car, the Rockwell Automation car. There's Tracy Hines, the 6 car. He's being shown a lap down, a couple laps down actually. And David Stremme, the 14 Navy car, is currently being shown in the 7th position.
Johnny Sauter's been out in front of the field, going on 120 laps now. We're inside of 92 laps to go. Johnny Sauter wanting to claim victory in his home state. Speaking of on top, Johnny Sauter has been on top, well, almost the whole race. 133 laps Johnny Sauter's led. Ron Hornaday 36 laps, and Randy LaJoie was up front 2. Those are the only 3 that have led this race.
That was a change for the 5th position. David Stremme able to get by Randy LaJoie for the 5th position. Remember, David Stremme had such a great run here last year in the 32 trim spot car that Ron Hornaday is driving tonight. Almost won that race, came very, very close. Ron Hornaday able to get by him late and carry on to victory.
That pit stop really hurt Ron Hornaday. You know, he's been really fast all day, and he's still showing 1 lap down.
Out in front, Johnny Sauter leading this field. Let's drop back through the field and see how we're doing. Right?
Oh, Rick, we'll start up front with the yellow freight Dodge for Johnny Sauter. I talked to him at the top of the show, and I said, hey, man, your qualifying effort has been so good here, but finish is not so good. A 12th, 13th, and 31st. Why? He said, I didn't have the patience. Tonight, I'm going to overcome that. I'm going to work through the lap traffic and have the patience that it takes to win this race. Now, in second place is the number 2 of Clint Boyer. He has completed 99.3 of all the laps so far in 2005, and I believe that's the reason that's kept him 3rd in the points. With his first career victory this year, it has been patience also for Clint Boyer so far this year. Wendy, how about the 8?
Martin Truex told me this morning he hated Milwaukee. It was one of his least favorite tracks, that he never runs well here. Well, he's proving that wrong tonight as he runs 3rd. He's on a good roll. He does have a set of stickers left on pit wall as well if they want to come in and take them. Remember, he took fuel only and a wedge adjustment at lap 146, so he has about 57 more laps on his tires than anyone else. If we go back to 4th, J.J. Yaley in the 18. They're about 7 laps short of fuel. If we continue to go green, they think they're not going to make it, but they do have a set of stickers left. On that last pit stop on lap 146, they wedge out of the left rear to loosen up J.J. Yaley. He's been tight all night. In the 14 of David Stremme, he's running 5th right now. A little bit of a different situation on fuel mileage. They're about 20 laps short, way different from any other team that I looked at, and they came in on the same lap as everyone else. So I don't think that David Stremme and the 14 team are getting as much fuel mileage as everyone else here on pit road, right?
The number 11 of Paul Menard runs in 6th position, Wendy, and this is his 50th start tonight in that Menard's race car. Now, I'm going to check on their fuel mileage because I don't know exactly. I know they can go to lap 190 for sure, but then they need all the gas they can get at lap 190 for Menard. Now, Randy LaJoie runs in 7th, right behind him in the number 34 car. He won here back in 1997, and LaJoie told me he likes this racetrack because he has so much experience here, he says, and he believes that experience can do better than some of these younger guys. But Menard, with not as much experience, right ahead of him. Behind them in 8th position is the number 20 of Denny Hamlin. Tonight he is driving chassis 2043. Now they ran this same car back at Phoenix, and he was running really, really well, but they ended up finishing 11th after he cut a tire. Hamlin says he knows that if they overcome some of the little gremlins that have plagued this team, he believes they can be a contender. Now in 9th position is the 22 of Kenny Wallace. The PPC team just made an announcement that they're going to add another Busch Series team. Brent Sherman will go to work for them. They're going to run just a handful of races this season, but next year it'll be full-time. I asked Greg Pollux, the owner of the team, what are you doing? Trying to become the next Roush Racing of the Busch Series? He says, baby, bring it on. We're going to try to do it. Wendy?
Next on the list there is the 33 of Tony Raines. He was the one who brought out our 3rd caution on lap 113, and he was able to benefit from the next caution coming out at lap 146, so he got the free pass and was able to get onto the lead lap with the other 9 cars that are on the lead lap. So only 10 cars are on the lead lap, and he is the last of those 10. Out in front, Johnny Sauter continues to lead around the Milwaukee Mile. He is leading the SBC 250.
About 65 laps to go. Johnny Sauter continues to lead. He's got about a 3.5-second lead over the 2-car of Clint Boyer. Martin Truex in third, about 8.5 seconds behind.
Side-by-side racing continues around the track, but it's Johnny Sauter who's on point, putting more cars either a lap or 2 laps down, some 3 laps down.
That thing is just handling so good. You can see it's just real smooth through the corners there. He doesn't have any brakes glowing on a thing or anything like that. So got a battle for 4th, and it's pretty tight. Paul Menard's trying to get by J.J. Yeley here. Pretty good battle.
Paul Menard looking for a career best finish. His best what came a week ago in Kentucky, where he finished 5th.
Well, wouldn't it be nice if you could say, yeah, I just bettered my career finish in 1 week's time. Johnny Sauter's trying to do, I'm sorry, Rick, trying to do to this field what Dennis Setzer did to the Truck Series field last night, but Jack Sprague was able to stay at least within a second or two of Dennis the entire night. Johnny Sauter's had a strong lead for much of this night. He's got right now over a 4-second lead on Clint Boyer.
David Strimmy would have to consider this to be a bad night. You see him just behind Paul Menard in that number 14. The 2 races that he's run here, he finished 3rd and 2nd. Right now he's running in 6th. That's way off of his pace.
Great move by Paul Menard there. He got a little bit of a run through the center of the corner to 1 and 2. He was able to get down to the throttle before J.J. Yeley. He was able to beat him down the backstretch into turn 3. He takes over the 4th position.
J.J. Yeley on the last restart. We talked about him almost backing up. We thought something might be wrong with that car, but he has proven us wrong, and he is definitely moving back toward the front.
Well, the one thing he did say he liked it, even though he was falling back a little bit, he said, I like the way it is. And as the longer runs go, he was been pretty good with it. So he probably didn't want to change it a whole lot.
Wendy.
J.J. Yeley's still pretty happy with his car. I just want to talk to you guys about the role that the 18 car has been on. They finished in the top 10 the last 2 races, and his best finish of the season was last weekend at Kentucky. So J.J. Yeley is definitely on a roll as he currently sits in the 5th position.
J.J. Yeley's got a career best of 6th. He had that last year at Kansas. This last week finish of 7th. Looking to be better today. He currently runs in the 5th position.
Denny Hamlin also had a good run. He had a good finish a couple of weeks ago in Nashville and had a great run going last week. Had some trouble, did not get the finish that he deserved. He looked like he may have had a top 5 car, didn't quite get the finish.
Again, 10 trucks on the lead lap cars. Tony Raines in 10th position right now. He's 26 seconds behind Johnny Sauter, which means he's only about 4 seconds away from being lapped if Johnny Sauter keeps up the pace he's going.
There's Tony Raines right there. You see his last lap speed was about 1 mile per hour slower than our leader, Johnny Sauter. Reed Sorensen right now is the 11th place car up, point leader. He would love to see a caution flag, so he would be the recipient of the free pass and get back on the lead lap. But we're getting a report that some of our spotters up on the roof are saying that they're feeling some raindrops.
As long as they don't get too heavy, it'll probably be okay. I mean, the track's got some heat in it. We've got cars all over the place. Probably be fine unless it really dumped on it hard here.
58 laps to go, coming up on 200 laps run. The Milwaukee Mile, and there you see there is definitely rain coming down.
That's pretty big.
We moved the start of this race up just a few minutes because of the fear of this rain in the area.
The 2 car of Clint Boyer is making his way down pit road.
timing could not be worse for Clint Boyer.
Yeah, that's kind of surprised that he'd do that if there was any type of moisture out there. But, you know, unless they're thinking that if a yellow does come out, he'd be in good shape. But right
unless
now,
he has
to
to
put his lap down, unless he's got a problem somewhere.
Yeah, unless he has a problem, Johnny. You can see right side tires there. I don't think there was a situation where he was doing any strategy unless he doesn't feel like the caution is going to come out, and he says, I want to get some fresh tires and have them longer instead of waiting until I'm 10 or 20 laps from being out of fuel. Let me come in now and give me some fresh tires so I can make up some time on the racetrack. That's a very big gamble, though.
It is. I mean, knowing that everybody could probably get within 10, 15 laps of this race, you're not going to take that gamble, not when the weather's the way it is. So he must have had something that he didn't feel was quite right there.
We hope they found it. We hope it was with the right side tire. If he had a problem, you see him get a little bit sideways coming off the corner there. It would be horrible to make his way down pit road, change right side tires, and it'd be a left side tire.
But especially when you're sitting there running second in the field, you know, you definitely didn't want to do that.
Clint Boyer goes a lap down. Just in front of him, Rd17 is the highest scored one lap down car. So if the caution was to come out right now, Rd17 would get the free pass, not Clint Boyer.
Not for long. Right now, Clint Boyer would get the, if he makes this pass on Rd17, he would be the one that would get the free pass.
There Clint Boyer goes by Rd17, and so he is the highest scored lap down car. Rd17 having troubles making it through that corner, gets all the way out, almost up to the wall in turn 2.
He went very, very wide. It actually allowed David Green in the 27 car to get by him. So now Rd17 goes to about the 3rd car one lap down. Gets back down to the bottom of the racetrack, but he's got a lot of debris on his tires where he went way high over in turns 1 and 2. You see the 59 of Stacy Compton. Caution flag is out.
There the caution flag flies. We'll find out for what it is. We're hearing the rain has brought out this caution flag. And so Johnny Sauter out in front.
This is something that Clint Boyer did not want to see. I mean, that's you know, unless it was a situation where he needed to come in for sure.
Yeah, if he had a tire, he felt like he had a tire going down, or maybe a vibration, thought he might have had a loose wheel or something, then yes, he's got to come to pit road. But it's awfully hard to give up that second position like he did and made his way to pit road. Clint Boyer, he will get the free pass. That's the good news. But unfortunately, it's raining right now. If we don't get this race restarted, he's going to end up finishing in the 10th position. Ray, what went on with the 2 car?
Well, he came in and said he thought he had a vibration and felt like the right front had gone flat on him. He said the thing was just hopping all over and vibrating, and so they decided they had to pit. And we'll see how it plays out here as the rain starts to pick up a little bit heavier.
I'm sure that's something that the driver definitely makes that call. You know, he's driving the thing. He's feeling what the vibrations are. He's got to deal with it. He's not going to pass up running second to come down pit road unless he feels it's very necessary to make that.
Yeah, his crew chief's going to tell him, hey, if you feel like you need to come on in, because you can't feel what it feels like in the pits. So and nobody wants anyone to stay out and have a dangerous situation where he could cut down a tire if maybe he had a wheel vibrating because it was loose, or a broken wheel. So nobody wants that. So the crew chief says, hey, it's up to you, driver, whatever you think you need to do.
And plus you're sitting there looking at, you know, even that he's done that, he's still 10th, so it's not going to kill him as far as points day.
The cars are being brought down pit road. They're going to take them around the track one more time to make sure everybody is in line correctly. The officials have come out onto pit road expecting the cars to come down pit road. The crews frantically grabbing for tarps and covers for the cars and for their equipment.
As you can see on the screen there, if you get halfway, the race is considered official. So if this race was to not be restarted, then it would be an official race, and Johnny Sauter would get a victory.
The rain begins to pour in Milwaukee, Milwaukee Mile. Johnny Sauter out in front. We're no longer in a rain delay. This is an officially rain-shortened race from the Milwaukee Mile. The SBC 250 has been won by Johnny Sauter because the skies opened up about 15 minutes ago and dumped more rain on this mile track. And so, as the rain continues to fall, we've caught up with the winner of this race, standing by with Ray Dunlap.
And you know, Rick, when I look back in the record books back in 2000, Jeff Green had led 210 laps in this race. Now, if this race would have gone completed, you'd have beat that record, but I guess you don't care about that because a victory's a win, right?
That's it. A W is a W. I was actually here for that race when Jeff Green did that, so pretty dominating performance with our Fleet Pride Yellow Transportation Dodge. It was a good day. We were fast right off the truck and sat on the pole, led the most laps, and won the race. That's cool.
Now, whenever you got into that deal with Tony Raines, we looked back at a couple of replays, and it looked like it was really not hardly any contact there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I apologized and didn't mean to do it, but it was one of them deals where he went in high, and I thought he was going to give me the preferred groove, which I had been running all night, and I didn't realize he was pitting. And if he signaled me that he was going to pit, I didn't see it, so I was just in the groove and focusing. So one of them deals, I didn't mean to do it, and if everybody's mad, I guess I'm sorry, and I apologize, but at the end of the day, we won, and that's all that matters.
Did you freak out at all when you had that one pit stop? You were just about ready to leave, and the guy said, back on up, but you were on your own lap, so you had plenty of time.
I got to be honest with you, the car was so good tonight, I didn't even break a sweat. So Joe Shear, all the guys at Phoenix Racing, them guys at the shop, we've killed a lot of cars the last couple of weeks, and this car we ran at Richmond had a good run with it. I didn't freak out. I just knew that they were making sure that we didn't miss anything, and I got the ligaments on there, and it all worked out. Congratulations on win number 3. Good luck in Daytona. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Johnny Sauter, your winner tonight here at Milwaukee as the rains came back again.
Johnny Sauter claiming the 4th win of the season from the pole. Johnny Sauter started out front, was able to hold on and win this one, even though it was rain short. We'll be back to close out tonight's show after this. Welcome back to NASCAR Busch Series Racing on FX. This one is concluded. The SBC 250 won by Johnny Sauter tonight. And here's how he did it. He was able to get out front with the pole, and then a caution came out on lap 21 where Johnny came in and actually pitted and then had to go from the back to start passing guys.
A number of other cars pitted with him. Here's Clint Boyer, the 2 car, who had a very, very good car. Johnny makes his way by him, and this was for the lead. Ron Hornaday, the 32, was leading the race. Johnny was able to drive by him with very, very little trouble.
Then a problem happened. Johnny Sauter, not knowing that Tony Raines was going to come in and pit, got into the back of him, spun him around, and that caused another caution.
And then in the pits here, Johnny Sauter has a small problem. He realizes he has it. He backs up, gets the lug back on there. Really didn't cost him a lot because at this point in time, he's the only guy in the lead lap.
Johnny, that was then penalized for rough driving, was put to the back of the field with the recipient of the free pass, who was the 34.
Who was the only other car on the lead lap at that point. That was the pass for the lead right there. Then the rains came right around lap 200.
So the rains come. The cars go down to pit road, stop. They tried to dry the track, weren't able to do it, and so now it is unofficially over. Johnny Sauter out in front. He wins this one for his 3rd career win in the NASCAR Busch Series.
Couple great runs, couple career best runs. Paul Menard, 3rd place, that's his best career run. 5th was his previous best, that was last week. Denny Hamlin, 7th was his best career finish until tonight. He finishes 6th, a great run.
And Clint Boyer there finished 10th. But he was 2nd, came in with a loose tire, and the rain came out.
Forgot J.J. Yaley. He finished 4th. That was his best career finish.
And we see a lot of -1, -2. Another race like last night where we had a really dominant performance by one vehicle.
Look at 14th there, Carl Edwards. He made pit stops. He changed shocks on pit stops. He was not able to get that lap back. He felt like if he could run the distance, then he would have a good chance of getting that lap back and get a better finish. But now he's on his way to California.
As long as the rain doesn't hamper his travels, the lightning and thunder still continuing here in the Milwaukee area. Continuing on with the unofficial results.
It's hard to believe we only had, 4 or 5 cars out of this race. I mean, that's just like we saw in the truck race, not very many vehicles out.
5th caution was for weather, and there was 5 cautions tonight. Look at the point standings after 17 races for the NASCAR Busch Series. This season is officially half over. Martin Truex Jr. takes over the top spot from Reed Sorensen. Carl Edwards backs up a few points. He was 66 points down. Now he's 79 points out of the top spot. Tomorrow on Fox, it will be the Nextel Cup Series at Sonoma. Jeff Gordon trying to defend his race win from a year ago. He starts on the pole. That race starting at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. The rain continues to come down, and it didn't just start slowly and build up. This rain came down extremely hard, and we have to give credit to the people that are working so diligently here for FX. Some of the camera guys had a chance to take a